everyone, welcome to All Things Iceland. My name is Jules, and if you're new here, I give the inside scoop on Icelandic nature, culture, history, and language. And I am making this video in response to a lot of questions that I've been getting about a possible volcanic eruption here in Iceland. We've been having a lot of earthquakes since last week. And honestly, because I'm in a bit of the Icelandic news bubble, I didn't realize how much this was being talked about in other parts around the world until I started getting a lot of questions coming at me from the lovely people like yourself here on YouTube, on Instagram, Facebook, different places, hoping that I'm safe, that I'm well, that everybody here in Iceland is safe as well, our families, all of that. So I definitely wanted to make sure that I just came on to give people information. I am not an expert. I am not trying to claim to know, everything about geology, volcanology, or any of that. I'm just relaying some information, but I'm also talking about just personally how I'm feeling and about how I am reading or talking to other people and how they're feeling about the large amount of earthquakes that we've been having and the possibility of a volcanic eruption. So to start off with, because the main question I've been getting is, are you safe? And yes, I am very, very safe, meaning I'm in an area that is safe. Even the people who are close to the earthquakes that are happening and the possible volcanic eruption, they are also safe. Obviously, if anything were to change, Icelandic authorities would do what's necessary to make sure that everybody's safe. And I trust in that. They've been very transparent with all of us in terms of what is happening. I think because of the global crisis that we've been in, we've definitely been getting great communication all throughout that. And this just kind of is an easy extension for them to continuously relay information and make sure that people who speak different languages other than Icelandic can get information too. So that has been great. And also, Icelandic buildings are made to withstand earthquakes. So I am living in a place called Mosfellsbær, which is about 15-20 minute drive outside of downtown Reykjavik. And because that's even farther away than the site of where the earthquakes are happening, or at least like the main amount of earthquakes are happening, and where there might actually be a volcanic eruption, I actually don't feel it as much as people who of course live on the Reykjanes Peninsula. So as a point of reference, the Reykjanes Peninsula, for those who've heard of the Blue Lagoon, that's where the Blue Lagoon is located. It actually is located relatively close to this area where the swarm of earthquakes is happening and possible volcanic eruption. Also, Keflavik Airport, the international airport where most people fly into and out of, is also on the Reykjanes Peninsula. And this peninsula hasn't had a volcanic eruption over 800 years. So in a way, it's kind of overdue. And I'm not saying that, this has to happen or that it will happen. And so I'll just pull up like a map just to show you where this area is. So the Reykjanes Peninsula is in this area, and as you can see, Reykjavik is about like a 30-minute, 40-minute drive from this area in question. And then you have me, which is in Mosfellsbær, which is another 15 to 20 minutes. So in terms of the earthquakes, on February 24th, I did feel an earthquake here in this house. Like I've been feeling a little bit of rumblings here or there and like some other larger ones, but that one is the one I remember the most because I captured it also and posted it on Instagram. And for me, this is exciting. So in terms of feelings, a lot of people are anxious about it, meaning that, it doesn't feel very good for them to be like, the ground rumbling beneath them. And I can understand that. I've experienced an earthquake in New York City, and I was in a building that was not sturdy feeling. It was swaying and pretty scary. And for me, that was not okay. And also, I really didn't like the job I was in then. So, so I was like, I don't want to die in this job. Like, get me out of this building. So that was another story. But here, like I mentioned, I'm not feeling it as strongly as some of the people who were on the Reykjanes Peninsula, but also people downtown Reykjavik are feeling it a decent amount. So it's just a different feeling for me. But also, I've never been in the country when there was a volcanic eruption, and I'm just really excited about that. And I know that not everybody feels the same about volcanic eruptions, the possibility of them, or earthquakes. I totally get it. And I'm not trying to invalidate or diminish anyone's feelings around it. I'm just sharing my feelings, which are, I'm kind of hoping that I can go and see it. And the police have actually said that they will make it so they'll let people know if there's a volcanic eruption, you know, if there's a place where people can go and observe it from a safe distance. And so I'm excited about that because I've never seen lava flowing before. I've never experienced this, and this is just my own personal thing where I see it as a potential fun experience in a safe way. Of course, only if it's safe. I would not be excited about this also if I felt like my life was in danger, or the people who were in the area where this is happening, if their lives were in danger. And that's because I trust the authorities here. They are providing us with the most up-to-date information and are doing everything to keep us safe. They did shut down one road just because they want to prevent people from getting too close to getting to the activity, because there are always the people who, you know, want to get out there and want to be the first ones to see it if there's potential eruption. I will have a link in the description box below of a live stream that you can check out of the area. However, there's not much to really see unless there's a volcanic eruption happening. So it's up to you to check it out if you want. And also I want to talk a little bit about the fact that like people have been asking me about, you know, will this affect travel in terms of flights? Will there be a lot of ash? And like I said, not an expert, only just referring to information that I've read about from experts. And there isn't an expectation that there would be a lot of ash if there happens to be a volcanic eruption. And on February 24th, when there was this earthquake that I felt, I actually said that we're overdue for a volcanic eruption, so you never know. Now, granted, I was speaking from a place of just being like, possibly, but in reality, like that one big earthquake is not necessarily an indicator that we're going to have a volcanic eruption. It's usually, or at least the normal circumstances, that there's a swarm of earthquakes. And we've had tens of thousands of earthquakes happen, but when there's a large swarm of them, meaning like a large cluster of earthquakes, that's when the scientists go, oh, okay, there's magma buildup. Maybe there might be a volcanic eruption. We are monitoring the situation. I also thought it would be interesting to talk a little bit about the fact that Reykjanes Peninsula, in proximity to where other volcanic eruptions have happened that you have heard of. So Eyjafjallajökull, for instance, that was the one that happened in 2010, which did affect the travel industry majorly. I mean, it shut down basically travel. And that volcano is situated much farther away, but you might not have heard of Bárðarbunga, which sounds kind of like some Californian surfing company or something. But Bárðarbunga is another volcano that went off in 2014, and it went from 2014 August, and it stopped in 2015. But it didn't affect travel for, you know, people all over the world, but it did affect Iceland in terms of air pollution because it let off a lot of sulfur dioxide. Will that be the case with what's happening in Reykjanes Peninsula? Maybe not. I mean, who knows? That's the thing, is that there are a lot of different possibilities. And what is also interesting, according to the latest data that I have seen, is that there's 5 possible scenarios that scientists have shared. One is that seismic unrest will basically die down in a few days or a few weeks. The second is that seismic unrest will actually increase and there might be an earthquake of magnitude 6. The third is that there will be an increase in seismic unrest and possibly an earthquake of 6.5, but near a different mountain. The fourth is that magma intrusion continues close to Þráinnskjaldarhraun, which is a mountain, but it dies down and the magma solidifies. And the fifth is that magma intrusion continues, which essentially results in a volcanic eruption, but that lava flow will not affect any inhabited areas. And that's one of the questions I've been getting, is that, you know, will people have to evacuate because of lava or ash or whatever else? And according to, and I'll have all the articles that I'm referencing or talking about in the description box so you can read all this stuff yourself, but it's expected that if there is to be a volcanic eruption, that it might actually be a small one, not much ash, and the lava flow wouldn't be that fast. And also it wouldn't affect inhabited areas. Now, of course, things can change. And that's the whole point of monitoring. That's the whole point why I pay close attention to the news. In fact, every week over on Instagram, I've been doing this for many months. It's an Icelandic news roundup. I do that every Monday. And I just kind of give people snippets of what's been happening in Iceland. And surprisingly, I think it's my most popular segment on Instagram. Something I started on a whim and people have just really been enjoying it. So I do pay close attention to the news for the most part and am trying to keep myself just up to date because obviously I have family and I have people, lovely people like yourself who have been showing concern. And of course, want to relay any information I have to all of you and to my family and friends so that they know that I'm safe, because that of course is my #1 priority as well. What I find interesting is that it's being communicated that an eruption in this area is just as likely to happen soon as it is to happen in centuries from now. So there isn't anyone who's like, this will happen on this day, blah, 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 you know? But we did have an alert, to be fair, that there could be an eruption happening within a few hours last Wednesday. But after monitoring, it turned out that it was like, oh, well, a few hours passed and that didn't happen. And then it was like, maybe in a few days. And it could even happen while I'm filming this, for crying out loud. Like, you just never know. And to me, that kind of adds a lot of excitement to this whole thing. One thing though that I have to mention that is hilarious is that Icelanders are a little giddy about the fact that if this volcanic eruption happens, that the media, foreign media, would have such a hard time saying the name of the volcano, which is Þráinnskjaldarhraun. Þráinn is a name, and it might be, this is according to my Icelandic teacher, who is a subscriber, shout out to you, Erikur, or Erik, excuse me, who let me know that Þráinn is probably, like, in terms of historically, Icelanders think of it from Njál's saga, and Þrá is to long for or to miss, so it could mean that name could mean that. And skjaldar comes from skjöldur, it's a form of skjöldur, which means shield or armor, and hraun means lava. So Þráinn's lava shield, possibly the lava of Þráinn's shield. I'm not sure, but it sounds pretty cool. And it's a bit of a mouthful, a little bit different than Eyjafjallajökull. I say it's like a tad harder, but in reality, the like sound of Eyjafjallajökull gets people every time. I've linked to an article by the Reykjavik Grapevine that did a great job of talking about certain volcanoes and of course proximity around them of like inhabited areas and what essentially the Icelandic authorities have planned evacuation wise if a volcano were to go off there. So you can check that out. So yes, Iceland does have plans for if something were to happen in terms of a huge volcanic eruption where people needed to be evacuated. It has happened where in the Westman Islands in the 70s, there was a huge volcanic eruption that people were not expecting, and they had to flee their homes. They had to leave the Westman Islands and go to the mainland. And it was a sad time because people's homes were destroyed by the lava, and like people talk about how, you know, the ground basically opened up and lava came out and destroyed different parts of people's homes that they had established there for so many years. So of course it's possible in Iceland for this to happen. Will it happen this time around? So far the prediction is not likely. Again, it sounds kind of weird to like talk about it this way, but that's just how it is, and that is how island life with volcanoes is. And I found myself embracing that in a very interesting way, meaning like I get excited about it, but I understand that other people have different feelings about it, and that's okay too. Someone else was asking about like evacuation because you're on an island. It's a very big island. I know Iceland seems so small in comparison to so many other places, but at the moment doesn't seem likely that we would all have to leave Iceland. But if that were the case, I trust that there are plans in place for if there had to be a mass evacuation for some reason. And of course, if this continues, one of the things I'd like to do is to bring on an expert like a geologist, a volcanologist, just some individual who can explain the science behind all of it for all of you. And so I will definitely let you know if that will be the case. and you can submit questions for that. So definitely make sure that you're subscribed so you don't miss out on that possibility, as well as other videos that highlight Icelandic nature, culture, history, and language, and interviews that I do with people that live here. So that's pretty much just an update about what's going on. Of course, if more happens, I will definitely let you know, especially if a volcanic eruption happens. Again, I'm very, very grateful for all of the concern, for all of us here in Iceland. We are doing fine in terms of our lives are not in danger. And even if a volcanic eruption does happen, there's a good chance that it isn't this like huge issue. Maybe we'll have some air pollution issues, possibly, but we also just kind of have to wait and see. Thank you all so much for your concern, and as always, I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next one.